This is Dr. Chris's Radio Horror Show here tonight on WCUW, and tonight we are having a distinguished guest on the show with us to talk a little bit about her long, industrious career and what she has been doing now. We have many questions about some of her famous body of vampire work on the show with us. Thank you for coming on the show with us, Anne.
Well, it's my pleasure. I'm very flattered that you want to talk to me.
What are you working on these days? I heard you're involved in theater.
No, right, these days I'm still trying to direct a movie, but I'm mostly teaching at the American Film Institute.
Cool, awesome. So you're a teacher of film. You're a teacher of film.
Yes, I'm teaching mostly editing, but more than that, I'm teaching a class that involves the entire crew of director, editor, writer, the works.
Oh, wow.
The entire team. So yes, that's what I've been doing for the last 5 years. But right now, actually, I'm also producing. I'm trying to get my own film going, but I'm also producing. I'm one of the producers on a comedy that's going to shoot this Christmas.
What's the comedy about?
It's about a guy with not in a good place in his life. It's about a Korean American, and the director is Korean American as well. A guy who is really in a bad place, works in his parents' business of funeral, and he decides I need to shape it up and go to this reunion of my high school. And see, I don't know, maybe whatever could happen, just shake it up. And this is what happened to him when he does go to the reunion.
Excellent.
It's a very broad comedy, yeah.
When I found out that you had worked on one of the probably best adaptations of Dracula ever, I mean, I wanted you to come on for Embrace of the Vampire. I was always a huge fan of that film going back to my teen years, and I was rewatching it the other night because I had just gotten it on Blu-ray. And then I was like, oh, who is the director of this? And then I found out that you edited Bram Stoker's Dracula. That must have been a Herculean task to edit that movie.
Yes. Actually, this movie had already been, a cut had been done, and they had a preview that was not satisfactory, shall we say.
Okay.
And so Frances asked me to come on, at first just to do a few things about the girls. And then I ended up really reshaping and recutting the entire movie. So I arrived in April, and I finished. I was there to the end of the movie. So it turned out to be a much bigger task than it started out to be.
How did you meet Frances Ford Copolla?
Well, that's a long story. I've been really a kind of a miracle because obviously I'm a French, as you can hear, and I had no connection with top of the line creators that I would never. When I decided, I went to Columbia University, and then when I decided to start by being an editor, I always wanted to do my own little films, being French, but. I was working, I was in Indian, I did some good stuff, but it's when I moved to Los Angeles that miraculously, one of my neighbors turned out to be a very, very important person in the film business, a woman who happens to know the Coppola organization. And one day they called her to say they were looking for a woman editor. And so she recommended me, and this is how they found out that I existed. And this is how I got eventually hired for my first job with him. So it's a miracle, really, because there's no way through my relationship or through the movies that I'd done up to that point that this could have happened. It's just the universe was, the wheel of fortune, it turned and it went boom, Anne Goursaud.
What did you have to? How long was the original cut of Bram Stoker's Dracula? What was it that the test audience didn't find satisfactory?
Well, I mean, in my humble opinion, I thought it was cut very fast, and it was not cut for what I so the movie was really about, which is really, I know the movie is about monsters. Dracula is a monster, but the movie is really very romantic. It's about love. And so, that's how I recut it, because I always thought that Dracula, this is a Victorian woman, were so repressed, and the guy she's going to marry is so repressed, and she dreams of something much more erotic. She looks at, the Kama Sutra, the scene in the movie where you see her looking at those pictures, and obviously,
Right. Yeah.
right, and
Yeah.
obviously she's having a much bigger imagination, and so this guy comes along. So to me, this is how I saw the movie. I really cut it really for the passion of Dracula, and it's about love and passion and sexual, a woman's sexuality. So that's what I had in mind when I retooled the movie.
How many times do you have to watch a movie before you begin editing it to understand
Oh
what
no,
you
no,
need to cut?
I didn't do it like that.
Oh, okay.
No, I didn't do it like that at all. It was more like, uh, let's take a scene that does not work and let's fix that one. And then what else can we do with this scene? Can we make it better? And do that one. And so that's how it was. So it was really a lot of, because Frances had a lot of brilliant ideas, I thought, brilliant, but they were not delivered editorially. So when I saw something that spoke to me and I could see how it could be fixed, so I would do that, and I would do that. Eventually, of course, I had to deal with the entire movie and make the structure work better. So that's how it was done. I had a great assistant. By the time I came to work on the film, there was only one editor left, but he ended up stopping to edit. But Frances gave me a fabulous assistant who had been there from the beginning, and so he had great knowledge of the film. And so when I was recording with him, I was not actually working the machine, because it was montage, and Frances said, no, there's no time in hell for you to learn that machine, because I didn't know it. So he gave me Gus, a fantastic guy who knew the film really well, so I could ask him, do we have this? Can you find this? Where is that? And so forth and so on. And so because of working with him made it possible.
How much time did you cut from the film?
I don't look at it that way. They had made it very fast. So I think, if anything, if someone would check, it probably longer. My version, the version I worked on, is longer probably, because their version was very fast. And I re-expanded a lot of scenes.
You also edited one of my favorite Tom Selleck movies ever, Her Alibi. Were you the
Oh,
co-editor
really?
on that? I discovered that movie during the pandemic, and it quickly became one of my favorite roles of Tom Selleck ever. I love Magnum PI. I think he's great on Blue Bloods. I love Two Men and a Baby, but that movie I absolutely loved.
Oh, that's so funny. So you're romantic.
A little bit, yeah, but I'm also a writer too, so it spoke to me. And also, who doesn't love Tom Selleck, especially if you grew up in the '80s like I did?
Yeah, no, I mean, he's a good actor. People don't mention that enough, but he's a very good actor. He knows how to play his part.
Yeah, I mean his range is fantastic in what he does. He definitely is great in a multitude of his roles. Um, One of the things that I absolutely love is, like I said, Embrace of the Vampire. Where did you were the director of this movie. Were you handed the script? Were you involved with it, like being conceptualized? And were you given it because you worked on the Red Shoe Diaries?
Yeah. So I think they gave me, because all the stuff I've directed so far, except for my documentary, a Classy Broad, which I did 6 years ago, everything else I've been hired. In other words, it's not projects that I wanted to do. It's people who matched me with the material. right? So,
Right.
Embrace of the Vampire, of course, because I had edited Dracula, I think they thought, okay, she knows about she knows about vampires, right? In fact, I don't know anything about vampires. I know about human nature. So anyway, so I did participate. The script was very much, it was, not an easy script, not a great script. They worked on it. I, of course, gave my notes, but it was initiated by the producers and writers. I was not the initiator of the material.
Coming into the project, talk about some of the stuff behind the scenes and like how it kind of came about. I mean, it's not a controversial movie, but it's definitely a very well known movie for the sexuality of a lot of it.
Right. Well, okay. I had done Vampire and I had done the Red Shoe, so I guess they thought I could do this. But the thing about this film that people should know, it was very, very successful in video. Very, very, very successful. But we did it in 12 days. I directed this film in 12 days, and then we were given one more day to redo the beginning, to do a scene for the beginning. So this movie was done. People are always complaining, they don't have time, they don't have a budget. We had about $200,000, and we had 12 days, and we had really, it was like we had nothing. We had one camera. After a while, I said, you know what? I can't do this movie in 12 days with one camera. So they got us a second camera, but we only had one set of lenses. So we had, but because I was an editor and I am an editor, I had a way of making this happen. I could go really fast. Of course, because we had an actress who had done a lot of television, and so she was very fast. She could deliver something that was good very fast. So she was a big reason why we could do it. But I invented a way of shooting the film, which is that I had two sets going at all times. I had the main set and I had a second set, so that I could keep shooting stuff while I was setting up the first set for the main actors, doing the light and getting. I was always doing something else on the other set. So I was able, by the time we cut the picture, we were missing nothing. Nothing. The whole movie we had. That's where I learned that being an editor is really a great thing for a director. Because you know when you got it, you know when your coverage works. It just gives you a great knowledge on how to direct a film.
When uh, you need two cameras. Is that the second camera for like your assistant director, so he or she can shoot like the B-roll?
No, I don't know B-roll. I did it. I did all of it. I didn't do it. No. It was like, okay, I'm not going to have time to do this on the main set, so now I'm going to shoot it. Well, what other detail could I use? I didn't have a beginning to this. Maybe I can shoot something that's going to work. So it was really like really important editorial thing. It was not a B-roll. I mean, it was just part of the movie. I just had to, so I was doing it.
What where was it shot?
In Minnesota, I'm trying to remember now, it was a school. We were very lucky. We found a great school. Not me, but somebody did. And it was a school where Marlon Brando had gone to school when he was a kid. So there was stuff written on the wall, and it was, a very, very iconic school. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the town. I think it was Minnesota, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, actually, IMDb says Shattuck St. Mary's School, 1000 Shumway Avenue, Faribault, Minnesota.
Yeah, and Marlon Brando had been a student there. So that was a big thing for the school.
Were you always, I mean, prior to editing Dracula and then this film, were you always a big fan of vampire movies in general or any kind of like gothic romances?
No, as a matter of fact, when Francis called me to help him with Dracula, I just said to him, it came out like that. I said, why me, Francis? I don't know anything about vampires. I'm French. And of course, he laughed, a big laugh. But it's true. I have not been. I mean, by now, of course, I've seen a lot of movies about with vampires, but it was not a genre that I was attracted to. No. But as I said, once I understood what the stories were for me, then I knew what to do, both editing and directing.
You also did the Poison Ivy sequel too, as well.
Yes.
That was with was that with Lisa Milano as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Yeah.
was really, yeah.
Was that just because you worked with her in Embrace of the Vampire? You cast her in the sequel to Poison Ivy?
Yeah, I mean, we had done pretty well with the first one. The film was sold to New Line, and this was the next one was a New Line, not directly New Line, but a New Line movie to go to video, produced by a different company. What was that called? They were called, God, what was it called? On Sunset Boulevard. So yeah, I mean, we came from one and the company bought our film, so they asked us to do the next one. Yeah.
Do you have any great stories from the set of that film?
That one was not as Embrace the Vampire was really fun, energetic. We all got along really well. It was also when the White Bronco was on television.
Oh, OJ, yeah.
Yeah, at lunchtime. So it was one of those things where I was trying to wait, so I didn't want the crew to know because it would screw up my entire day. When you only have 12 days, every minute counts, right? So I was like, oh, don't tell them, don't tell them. Anyway, we had a fabulous time on that one. But the next one was just so fun, and it came from really the production company that Cinetel. Cinetel was their name. And they gave us a person as a producer who had never produced, who was a writer by nature, and it was not a happy experience. It was one of those situations where she was constantly bugging us that we were too slow, and just creating a lot of drama. What they do in cinema is that they often don't go after the director, they go after the director of photography.
Oh.
You see what I mean? Because they don't really want to get into a big conflict with the director because that affects the actors and everything, But they go after the DP. So my DP, I had to protect him. I took all the head of New Line. It was just one of those places where we had somebody who was determined to ruin the experience. So it's difficult, Everybody has films like that, where we have people who are just in the way of the creative work. It's really weird, but it does happen.
Did you ever see the remake they did of Embrace of the Vampire?
No.
It came out in 2014, I think. It was a bit over the top and ridiculous with its sexual exploitation. Let's just say.
Yeah.
It was. I would say it's a very similar movie. It is definitely a remake, but it was, I think, trying to capture a certain kind of audience with its look and feel. Were you ever offered to direct it, or did you know anything about it?
No. I never heard about it until it was. I think I don't even know, done or something. I don't even know who did it. I mean, what production company did it?
I think it was released by Anchor Bay through like DVDs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I never heard anything about it. No. I mean, we were doing a little low budget film with, vampire and a little sex, but we had really good people working on it. We had really good people with good producers. We had a good operation. So I don't know what those guys did on that one.
Have you ever been offered anything that you turned down that you wish you had taken?
Well, yes, but in editing.
Oh, and only in it. What films were you offered to edit that you turned down that became
Well, I was
something?
not. There's a couple of films where the directors sought me out. I was not really offered, but they liked my work and they wanted me for their film. And And I just, after I read the script, I just didn't want to even meet with them. So, and then both films became huge success. One was RoboCop.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the original?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah. And the other one was, what is it called? It was Cher. This love affair with,
I'm not a Cher fan. Oh, wait, Moonlighting with Nicolas Cage?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, yeah, that one I do know. I'm not a big Cher fan, but I'm familiar with that movie. I
I
saw
think
it
that
once.
one, I don't regret RoboCop because it's not a movie for me, but I think it was kind of stupid to pass on Moonlight. But anyway, it's what I did. I thought the script was too slight, way too slight. But I didn't know that Norman was going to direct the shit out of it, and Cher was going to be wonderful, and so yeah, yeah. So otherwise, no, that's the one that I remember. Yeah.
Do you see any difference between the way Americans film and the French film? Do you see like a lot of difference between the two kinds of filmmaking styles?
Yeah, I've never made a movie in France, but I know filmmakers and I'm aware of it done in France. I think that, and I directed, when I did 9.5 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
I shot in Europe, I shot in Austria, and I shot in Paris. So I got to work with a film crew, a French film crew. The difference is that in America, it's very hierarchic. It's there's a hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right. Yeah.
in France, it's not like that. It's much more a band of friends.
Mm-hmm.
It's more democratic. It's not this kind of layered, the director is here. Oh my God, you
Mm-hmm.
know, the director is arriving with all the people running after him or her, and this kind of thing that the director is like this, and it's not really like that in France.
That's good. It's glad to hear there's a lot of egos here in America, and obviously it caused like a huge strike last year. So I mean, if those kind of egos and negotiations would be settled down before things have to go to a strike, I think the filmmaking industry would definitely be on a better trajectory. This past year has been kind of a rocky road. Last 2 years have been really rocky. Right after COVID finally settled down, and things could start happening again, and then all of a sudden we have a strike. It's not great business, and it hurts the place to go see movies, which is the cinemas, private cinemas, big cinemas, whatever it is. It's not great sometimes when that happens.
Yeah, that was really unfortunate. Hopefully, we're going to. Some people really are suffering in Hollywood.
Well, and I really appreciate you coming on the show to talk a little bit about your filmography and talk little bit about working with Frances Ford Copolla and Embrace of the Vampire. I do appreciate it. Where can people take your filmmaking classes?
Well, my thing is they're only at the school where I teach right now. It's the American Film Institute
Okay.
in
So,
Los Angeles.
all right. So people can go to Los Angeles if they're planning on attending. They can find you there.
Well, it's a school that you have to apply to.
Yes, of
It's a
course.
college. It's
Yeah.
like a college.
I no,
It's,
I figured as much.
yeah, 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 and it's unfortunately a very expensive school.
Oh, I can
Uh,
imagine. Oh, I imagine. I can imagine. But
yeah.
again, thank you so much for coming on the show to chat with me a little bit about your filmography. I do appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. Okay. Be well.
You as well.